The next chapter is quite a big one. We're going to be talking about Banu al-Abbas, the Abbasi Khilafah, and their relation to the Alawites. So as you know, at the end of the Umayyad rule, the Hashemites were able to overthrow the Umayyads. The children of Abbas saw that the government weakened, so they tried to get allies to support their revolution. They tried to appeal to the enemies of the Umayyads, mainly the Alawites and their Shia, who were big enemies of the Umayyads. The majority of the extremist Shia at the time were Kaysani. The majority of the religiously extreme Shia at the time were Kaysani Shia. They were not Twelvers. Remember my series on the origin of the Shia. Twelvers did not exist. They were nowhere to even be seen. So Abbasis relied on who? On the Kaysani Shia. The Kaysani Shia were the Imami Shia who believed in the Imam of Muhammad bin Hanafiya. And they were a force to be reckoned with because they had some numbers. And they viewed him as the Mahdi. They viewed Ibn al-Hanafiya as the Mahdi. So the second group that the Abbasis relied on for their revolution was the foreigners. There was a lot of foreigners, and mainly the slaves, since the Umayyads acted like Arab supremacists, as you know. They had a lot of haters. Abbasis were not able to persuade the Khawarij to join, even though the Khawarij would have been good allies. But because the Khawarij had distinct beliefs and wouldn't ally themselves with people who didn't share their views. Just like the Khawarij of our days, subhanAllah, they fight everybody. So Abbasis raised their popular slogan and called towards what? What was their popular slogan of the Abbasis? Ar-Rida min Ali Muhammad. They had a slogan which is called Ar-Rida min Ali Muhammad. And no, Ar-Rida is not referring to Ali Ar-Rida. Ali Ar-Rida wasn't even born at the time. Nor did anybody know of him, nor did anybody know that his title was going to be Ar-Rida. Ar-Rida min Ali Muhammad, actually the Imam at the time was Ja'far. So had nothing to do with Ar-Rida. And after Ja'far for the Twelvers, it would be Musa. And then after Musa would come Ali Ar-Rida. Anyway, so Ar-Rida min Ali Muhammad simply means the one pleasing to God and the believers from the family of the Prophet. So they wanted a leader who is both pleasing to God and to the believers, and who is also from the family of the Prophet. Ar-Rida min Ali Muhammad. Now, this is a vague slogan. This is a vague slogan. Since the family of the Prophet ﷺ had many members. Remember the definition of Ali Muhammad that I gave in the first chapter. Each Shia group that existed at the time had their own leader, and thought their own leader was the one pleasing. So the Kaysanis thought that if they helped the Abbasis, Muhammad al-Hanafiya is going to emerge, because he's in Ghaiba, right? According to them. And he's going to be the one pleasing. You know, those who followed Ja'far thought it would be Ja'far. Those who followed Zayd thought it would be Zayd. You know, it was like that, you know, kind of like that, in that formula. And there's a lot of these sects, so whatever it is that they believed, that they thought. The Abbasiyah, or Abbasis, succeeded in toppling the regime. They seized authority and never relinquished it. The position of imama, or leadership, was made exclusively for their household and descendants, so they wouldn't share it with Alawites or Zubairis or Umaris or any of the other descendants of the Sahaba. Abbasis had a position when it came to Ali ibn Abi Talib. They praised him. Unlike the Umayyads, Abbasis had a really positive view of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and they often praised Ali ibn Abi Talib and viewed him in really high regard, and they wouldn't tolerate somebody, for the most part, you know, insulting or verbally abusing Ali ibn Abi Talib. So they acknowledged his right and often named their children with his name. They would name their children with his name. In this context, they wouldn't fit into the traditional definition of Nasibi, since as we define Nasibi according to the most popular and most accurate, it is originally tied to one's position from Ali ibn Abi Talib, radiallahu anhu. As for calling their children by Ali, as you remember in the first couple chapters, the Umayyads, for example, they did not, they detested the name Ali. All right, there's some myth there's some stories or fairy tales that Bani Umayyah used to execute anybody who has the name Ali. This is made up. This is made up by the Shia. That never happened. They're trying to link it to the story of Fir'aun, actually. But that never happened. Ali was not a name that was liked by the Nawasib of Syria, but no one was doing a campaign to execute people with the name Ali. If you open the books of Rijal and the books of biographies, you'll find there's quite a bunch of people that are called Ali. Nobody touched a hair on their head. They're okay. Anyways, as for the Alawites, or descendants of Ali, they were treated with honor and generosity. They treated them well. The Alawites acquired much wealth and properties as long as they remained quiet and subservient to the Imam of their time. Imam of their time meaning the Abbasi Imam of their time. And the only Abbasi Imam that was described as Nasibi was Al-Mutawakkil, and he was not anywhere near as bad as the treatment of the Marwanid Khulafa. Other Abbasi Khulafa were famous for their tashayyu', such as Al-Ma'mun, Khalifa Al-Ma'mun, who preferred Ali ibn Abi Talib over Abu Bakr and Umar, right? May God be pleased with him. He had a very special opinion when it comes to this, and he was more of a Mu'tazili, and he combined Atizal with Tashayyu' and created a big mess. May God forgive him. He created a big mess, this guy. Anyways, one of the Abbasid Khulafa, Al-Nasir, leaned towards the extremist Imami Shia. That's something to be noted. One of their other Khulafa, Al-Muktafi, granted a poet an audience, and so the poet began praising the children of Al-Abbas and preferring them over the children of Ali. And so the Khalifa cut him off and said, I dislike the way you speak of our family. I dislike the way you speak of our family. So they took it as a personal thing. Oh, you're belittling Ali's children in order to praise us? But these guys are close relatives. I will not permit you to do that. So that was happening. This would never happen at the time of Bani Umayyah. Regardless of all this, Alawites were often ambitious, and their Shia, their supporters, especially the Zaydis, especially the Zaydis, were active political parties that sought to grant leadership to their imams. Zaydi imams were consistently trying to rebel with the sword against the imams of their time. They were not satisfied with being sidelined by their Abbasi cousins. They wanted to be the ones in charge. They didn't want other Abbasis to be in charge. So as you can see, there's a conflict between Banu Hashim here, the clan of the Prophet ﷺ. There's a conflict between the Abbasi branch and the Alawi branch. Another type of Shia that existed at the time were the Imami Rafida, the extremists, those who curse, those who believe in divine infallibility and appointment, all that stuff. These deviants were usually submissive and never rebelled. These guys never rebelled because they would usually slither like snakes around the rulers with their taqiyya. They'd always stick to the non-violent members of Ali's children and utilize their influence among Shia to gain favor and in Abbasi courts. And they did this in order to build their own leadership and wealth. Later on, they'd be more concerned with collecting khums than anything else, and a large number of them actually reached high positions within the government. So that's the Imami Shia. The last group, and that's why they prevailed, because they were smarter. They didn't rebel head-on against the rulers like Zaydis and other more genuine Shia. The last group of Shia were mainly Abbasis. There were Abbasi Shia, and they were loyal to the rulers at all times, and some extremists among them even believed that the Prophet ﷺ appointed Al-Abbas radiallahu anhu and his children as divine leaders. This was a successful attempt to utilize Kaysani Shia and convert them to Abbasi Shia. So a portion of the Kaysani Shia actually branched and became something that's called Abbasi Shia. I think it was Rawandiya. These guys, they believe that Abbas was divinely appointed. And we'll mention some stuff about them in a bit and what they used to believe. But now we'll move on to the next chapter, which is how did the Abbasids treat the Alawite rebels? So, as we said, Alawites did rebel. Different Khulafa had different approaches. When Muhammad al-Nafs al-Zakiyah, who was from the descendants of Al-Hasan bin Ali, radiallahu anhu, when al-Nafs al-Zakiyah, alayhi salam, rebelled against Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, the Khalifa, the latter was outraged. He arrested some of Muhammad's family and started to question them and used them to pressure him to surrender. Later, he tried negotiating and sent him letters promising him and his supporters safety. He promised him a large sum of money, and he promised to release his family from prison and fulfill his needs. Also, he released an Alawite from prison after Ja'far bin Muhammad al-Sadiq interceded on his behalf. So there's also some other Alawites got himself in trouble. He got arrested, he got imprisoned. So al-Mansur, he freed him, he let him go after Ja'far al-Sadiq interceded on his behalf. And Ja'far was respected by the leadership at the time. So the Abbasi Khulafa used to respect Ja'far al-Sadiq and view him as a big representative of his household. Similarly, when an Alawite rebelled against Harun al-Rashid, who was the Khalifa, Abbasi Khalifa, he promised him safety, so upon his surrender, he was treated well and given a large sum of money. Now, these same people, they would have been crucified during the time of Banu Umayyah. You see the difference here. These people would have been crucified. They would not have been allowed or given rewards or anything. So that's what the Abbasis just trying to favor their relatives and try to win them over.